If you're a developer, you definitely know this feeling. You watch some incredible demo of a browser automation tool, and it honestly looks like pure magic. But then you try to use it on a real messy production website, and poof, the magic is gone. It just breaks. So today, we're going to dig into a whole new approach from Amazon called nova.act. It promises to finally crack this problem by focusing on one thing above everything else: reliability. So here's our game plan. We'll start with that frustration we all share, then introduce this new kind of agent and really break down what makes its learning process so different. From there, we'll dive into some real-world tasks, walk through the entire developer workflow from a prototype to production, and then we'll land on the big takeaway: why reliability is the whole point. Okay, let's start with the core problem, something I think a lot of us have run into. There's this huge, frustrating gap between what browser automation promises and the reality of actually getting it to work, consistently in a real production setup. And it all really boils down to this one question, right? Why are these tools so incredibly brittle? They look so smart and capable in a controlled demo, but the second you put them on a dynamic, ever-changing website, they just fall apart. What's going on there? This right here is the heart of the issue. The dream is massive, automating all that tedious, repetitive browser work. But the execution? It just so often fails because the traditional agents, well, they're just too fragile for the jobs that we actually need them to do day in and day out without fail. So this is where Amazon nova.act steps in, and it's got a totally different philosophy. It is not trying to be some general-purpose agent that can do absolutely everything. Nope, it's a specialist, built from the ground up for one thing: rock-solid stability. The whole focus here is on what you might call the boring work. Things like filling out the exact same form thousands of times a day, or running a critical checkout flow test after every single code deploy. These aren't flashy, but they're the tasks that eat up so much time, and they absolutely have to work every single time. And Amazon has this great term for this idea: gnome core agents. I love this because it perfectly captures what these are: diligent, hardworking little agents designed to just reliably do their job. They execute these well-defined, business-critical tasks over and over again without breaking. It's just a perfect metaphor for that dependable, behind-the-scenes automation that makes a developer's life so much easier. So what is it that makes this approach so much more reliable? Let's get into the core tech, because this is where you really see how it builds a more robust system. And it all comes down to how the agent learns. And this comparison really gets to the heart of it. See, most agents are basically like puppets. They just imitate what they see in a demo, copying clicks and keystrokes, and that's exactly why they're so fragile. But nova.act is different. It doesn't just imitate, it actually learns. It develops a real understanding of cause and effect on the page. It's figuring out what its actions truly accomplish. This all happens in a really cool environment they call the web gym. Think of it like a training ground or a sandbox where the agent can just experiment over and over with no consequences. It clicks a button, sees what happens. It tries to fill out a form, and maybe it fails. But, and this is the crucial part, it learns why it failed. After thousands of these trial and error cycles, it builds this robust internal model of how the website actually works. It's a true understanding that goes way beyond just simple mimicry. Okay, so you've got this really robust foundation. What can you actually build with it? Let's take this out of the theoretical and ground it in some practical, high-value tasks that solve real problems for developers and businesses. So what does this look like day to day? Well, we're talking about the heavy lifting of data entry, reliably updating thousands of CRM records without errors, or data extraction, pulling down competitive intelligence from sites that don't have an API. And it's absolutely perfect for automating those mission-critical e-commerce checkout flows or running exhaustive QA tests to make sure your key user journeys are never, ever broken. Let's make this super concrete with a simple checkout flow. You can just tell the agent, hey, navigate to this product page, add these items to the cart, go to checkout, fill in all the user and payment details, and then confirm the purchase. This is a perfect example of a complex, multi-step workflow that you'd want to test automatically and, most importantly, reliably. So, how does a developer actually take an idea and turn it into a deployed agent? The whole experience is designed to be this seamless workflow, taking you from that initial what-if moment all the way to a scalable, production-ready deployment. The developer workflow is this really straightforward three-stage process. You start out in the web playground to just quickly prototype and experiment with your ideas. Then you can download that code, bring it into your own IDE, and use the extension to customize and debug it. And finally, when it's ready to go, you deploy your agent to run serverlessly at scale right on AWS. Now, to really see how this all fits together in code, we just need to understand a few key terms. The first one is an act. This is the basic command you give the agent, and you just say it in plain natural language, something like search for RoboDuck debugging. Okay, so to complete that act, the agent breaks it down into smaller pieces called steps. A step is just one cycle. The agent looks at the page, decides on a single action, and then does it. A whole sequence of these steps is what actually fulfills that bigger command. And all of this happens inside what's called a session. You can just think of a session as a single, clean browser instance. It's the container where your agent carries out all of its acts and steps to get its job done. And finally, putting it all together, we have the workflow. This is the complete Python code that defines the agent's entire end-to-end task. It orchestrates all the acts, steps, and sessions into one single executable script. That's the whole shebang. All right, let's bring this all home. Why does this different way of thinking about automation matter so much? Well, it's really about shifting our focus away from those flashy demos and onto what actually counts: dependable, consistent results. So the key benefits here are pretty clear. First, you get super high reliability because the entire stack is custom built to work together seamlessly. It's also really easy to use since you're combining natural language with the power of Python. You get a complete end-to-end developer experience from playground to production. And it's all designed for massive scale with monitoring and scaling built right into AWS. And I think this is the core takeaway, really. True, useful automation isn't about being flashy or showing off what's possible. It's about being reliable. It's about building tools that you can actually trust to handle critical, repetitive work flawlessly every single day. And that shift in mindset, well, that's what could finally make browser automation live up to its incredible promise.